Hello, welcome to this fourth tutorial. This video is all about arranging segments in OmegaT. I'm going to discuss a little bit about how to make the ideal segment size, and then in OmegaT you need to run a special script in order to merge and split segments. So first I'll show you how to run scripts in general in OmegaT, and then I'll show you this specific script you'll need to merge and split segments. So for this video, I'm going to use a sample from the Kangir. This is just a sample from Tohoku 114, and it's a which I think is the king of the array of all Dharma qualities, something like that. And this is just the first two folios, not the whole text. So there's 118 segments when I initially open the file, and it's just about 2 folios. And it's been segmented according to the rules that I showed you in the previous videos, where the segmenter will look for shays or kas, and if they're followed by a space, it will create a segment break after that shay. And so this, in general, works pretty well. But now I'd like to discuss a little bit about what is the most useful segment size. What I recommend is a 10 to 15 English word segment, or what ends up being about a 10 to 20 Tibetan syllable segment. So like this first one here, Sangye Dangchongchup Sempa Tamje La Chaksalo, that's about maybe 10 or 12 Tibetan syllables, and maybe a little short in English, but that's okay. I think that's about a good segment size. And the reason we want to aim for that size is because we want it to be short enough that when we begin a new project, if it's a good short length, it will be more likely to be recalled in a fuzzy match search, or just by the fuzzy match dialog box. If it's too long, it's kind of less likely it will show up. However, we want it to be long enough that there is some context. So if there's an obscure term or phrase, there's enough context to kind of understand what's going on so that the TM is actually useful. So that's a general guideline to aim for, 10 to 20 English words, or sorry, 10 to 15 English words or 10 to 20 Tibetan syllables. However, you don't need to be rigid about that. As you well know, in Tibetan, the grammatical structure is so different that often we have to rearrange sentences and words dramatically to fit them into English, particularly in these long sentences where there's a verb at the very end. For instance, like most sutras, this one starts with the setting and assembly. It has the Chomdende Gyalpa Kapna. The Blessed One was in Rajariha, but then we don't get the dwelling in verb until after it lists the entire assembly. So here's the Chomdende, the subject of the sentence, but then we have a list of bodhisattvas and gods and people that are there, and then finally all the way down here we get our Shukde, the Blessed One was dwelling. So in order to fit that into English, we would have to merge all of these segments into one giant huge segment. Now, I don't think that in this case it's not really efficient or necessary to do that. This is such a common formula and phrase that it's very easy to understand what's going on. So I wouldn't merge them all. I would just put the dwelling in this first segment here. This one here where Chomdende, the Blessed One, was dwelling in Rajariha, and then say together with, and then start continuing with these other segments here. However, in some contexts, it will be necessary to join many segments together and make a very big segment, especially if they're if it's very technical language and difficult language and you want to keep all of the meaning together, sometimes you're going to need to make a really big segment. And that's totally fine. I mean, it's not likely that it will show up in a fuzzy match search in future projects. However, it will still create a useful TM because as you use the search tool in OmegaT or the concordance search in another cat tool, when you search the TMs, it's going to find even those really big monster paragraph long TMs, and if it finds a important term or phrase in there, you'll always have that for reference. So it will still be a useful TM. So we don't need to be rigid about this word range rule, but it's something to aim for if it's convenient. Occasionally, we often change the sentence order in Tibetan and English. So you might want to switch the places of two segments. When that happens, there's two approaches you can take. You can just merge them into one bigger translation memory. That's what I would recommend. Or if you want, you can, if you know that after you export the file, you're going to rearrange the sentence order then, you can do it that way. However, I like to have everything in order initially so I don't have to worry about fixing it later. So that's just my approach. So yeah, that's the about the ideal segment length. So in general, the segmentation rule that we set up has worked pretty well, except when we get into these lists. And sometimes, as we know in Tibetan, you'll get these segments like Gyachindang, Tsangpadang. This is chakra and Brahma in the assembly, and we already have these gods as glossary terms. So it's not really necessary to create TMs for these two tiny segments. I mean, it's not a problem if we do. It's fine if they're in there, but it's not really convenient to do these tiny translations, one tiny word at a time. It'd be more convenient if these were all together in at least a bigger segment or a list. So one thing we can do to make it a little more convenient is we can set a minimum length for a segment when the segmentation rules are applied. And we do that from the same segmentation rules dialog that I showed you before. So I'm going to show you an alternative rule that you can use. So to adjust the segmentation rules, there's two ways to enter that dialog in OmegaT. One is through options segmentation, and the other one is through well, the option segmentation will change the rules globally, but if you just want to change it for the project, go to Project Properties, and then select Segmentation, and then check this box that says Make the segmentation rules project specific. And then here's our default rules, but we're going to remove these old rules and add a new one. So this is a new breaking rule, and here is a regular expression we're going to use. Now, if you don't understand regular expressions, don't worry about it. Just use this this expression here, and the important part of this expression is this number 40 here. That sets the minimal length of the string, the minimal characters. So stacked characters count as multiple characters. But if you want a larger minimum string, you can change this to 60, or if you want a shorter one, you can change it to 20. I just set it as 40 as an example. And so we're just going to copy this and paste it into the pattern before. And we'll paste and then select OK. And then let's see how that looks. It's going to reload the project. And there, it looks very nice. It brought it down to 74 segments, and let's see what they look like. As you can see, we don't see any of those short segments. Here's Chakra, Dang Brahma, Dang Jikten Kyungwa Nam. So there's still a few segments in this list, but we can easily merge those instead of having to merge them one by one. So that's one adjustable setting we can use to kind of arrange our segments more conveniently. So if you are familiar with regular expressions, let me just explain briefly how this code works. The period means any character, and then these curly brackets describe the string length. So it's a string with a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 40. And then after that minimum length, it looks for any non-space characters, and then it's a greedy match with the plus expression, so that means it will keep searching until it finds something in this set, which is either a she or a ka. So it will keep going, and this is the whole pattern before. So let me show you the that segmentation dialog again. So that's all the pattern before, but then the pattern after is again just the / lower s, which is a space character. So it won't just stop at any she or ka, but it will only ones that have a space character after it. And so that's how that segmentation rule works. All right, so next, how do we merge and join segments? Well, one of the disadvantages of OmegaT is it doesn't have a pre-installed way to merge and split segments, which is a disadvantage over other cat tools. It's hopefully something they're going to fix soon. But the script works well enough, so I'll show you how to load it. So in the video notes, I will give you a link to this SourceForge page where you can download OmegaT scripts, and you're going to get this script called merge or split segments. And then when you download it, it's going to be in a compressed tar bz2 file. And so to extract this, you're going to need on Windows, you're going to need a application called 7-zip, which is free. Also leave in the video notes a place where you can download and install that. And so you'll extract the file, and then then you'll extract a tar file. It's actually an extract file within an extracted file. I mean a compressed file within a compressed file. And then you'll go to 7-zip open archive. And then here's what's inside the folder. So there is the script is right here, merge split.groovy. That's the file type, and that's the actual script. And then properties are the kind of data that makes it work. So what you'll do is you'll go to your local disk, and you'll need to find your OmegaT folder. Mine's in the program files x86 folder, but you can search for it if it's not there with the Window Explorer. And then within the main OmegaT folder, there's a scripts folder right here. And so I've already done this, but you'll go back to that archive right here, and you'll put the merge split.groovy into open into the script folder. And then within that script folder, there's another properties folder, and then you'll copy these two properties properties files into here. And see, I already have mine in there. And then that will, when you go back to OmegaT, and you'll go to Tools and Scripting. And then it will, by default, it goes to that scripts folder, but you can point it to any folder. And then it should appear in this column on the left. Mine's right here, this merge or split segments. And then if you want to, I put it on a function key. So to put it, for instance, this is going to be Control-Shift F1. So right-click on the one and say Add Script. And then it will be put into slot 1. And then it'll be all ready to use. So we'll close this. And then the way it works is quite simple. So let's go to a segment. We'll go back to this Shakya one. And so it works on the segment you have selected. If you want to merge it with the next segment, click at the very end of the source and then go to Tools, and then you run the script here or press Control F1 and it will say proceed, and you say yes, and it will reload it each time, but it will reload it quickly and take you back to that same spot. And there, it's merged those two segments together. Now if you want to split, go select the segment, start at the end of the segment and highlight all the way to where you'd like to split. So let's split it from Brahma here. And then we'll go again to Tools, Merge or Split, or just Control-Shift F1. And then we'll hit yes, yes, reopen, and it'll take us back to that same spot. And let's see, try that one more time. Oh, I had highlighted the the target by mistake that first time. So there, now it's worked, and it split it right after Brahma and right before the Jikten Kyonghwa. And so that's how you run the merge and split segment script. And then if you go on that SourceForge, there's some other scripts as well, and you can check it out. There might be some other useful ones, and people are developing new ones all the time. So it's a handy thing to know. So that's the end of this video. Stay tuned. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to create annotations. So you can create footnotes and endnotes or set them in place while you're working from the OmegaT editor. Thanks. Bye.